Are we having fun yet?
Hey, welcome. How are you people? I'm doing okay. I think I'm going to make it this time. And what you've got dialed up is the Taking It Down podcast, brought to you, produced by the Alabama Take. Visit that website. It's been a little low-key lately, but we had a really nice piece this past weekend by one of our head writers, Patrick Akers. He's doing fantastic work. Just an essay on what is it to write and how do you produce that? How does that go? I like that one. It was good. Follow the Alabama Take on socials, and you can stay updated. I am Blaine Duncan. I'm editor-in-chief of the website, host of this pop culture podcast, and today with me soon, in a second, I'm going to talk about them. It's Adam Morrow and Donovan Reinwald. We'll get to those guys. Pump the brakes, people. The three of us are going to get around to talking about our impressions on the first episode of Marvel's new show, Disney Plus new show, Moon Knight, as well as some more odds and ends to begin the show. Use the show notes and timestamps at your pleasure there. There are going to be no spoilers. We're going to kind of cover a few things, but it'll be in the show notes. You can see the timestamps too. And as promised, fresh off a 15-mile run, it's Adam Morrow.
Good to be back. I missed you guys.
Is it 50? What'd you hit this morning?
No, I didn't. I've been, you guys joke, traveling the world for the last couple weeks, so I had to take a little running time off, so I'm getting my legs back underneath me. This was only a 4-mile morning. Didn't do my usual double-digit mileage.
Would have worn me out nonetheless. And on the other mic, on the third mic this morning, he's the mastermind behind the Republican Party. It's Donovan Reinwald. I got him.
Great to be here.
There he is. I got him finally.
Oh, man.
We're back on the horse, riding the horse. It's been 2 weeks.
I can't believe you guys didn't do one last week. I was disappointed.
Why didn't we? I can't remember. It was like a technical thing or something. I don't remember. Maybe I was in the bowels of depression again.
I think you had a migraine.
That was it.
You were not feeling well.
Yes, that was it. Yeah, I had a lost weekend, guys. Completely
you really did.
Out. Slept through the weekend almost. Sunday I was kind of up and about, but
we're together in some pretty healthy group text, a couple of them, and you just had disappeared on Saturday, and I...
What do you mean by healthy there?
Well, they... healthy as in they are flourishing with activity. Possibly not healthy in the any other sense of the word.
Not mentally.
No, but I was raring to go because I had been at sea and hadn't all the memes that came through, all the gifts that came through were a question mark to me. So I was ready to catch up, and you were out of it.
Yeah, done. Bad Saturday for me, and then I had to use Sunday to catch up on everything. Anyway, nobody cares about that shit. That's why we weren't online. I mean, that's why we didn't have an episode last week, though, if you do care. Listener of the Week. New segment, Listener of the Week.
How long is this segment going to be? Like 2 weeks?
Yeah, 3. 3. This week is Listener of the Week. And by the way, you'll get your prize in the mail. Jeffrey B. Hansen. Jeffrey B. Hansen, everybody. Let's give it up for Jeffrey B.
No, do we have to?
Not at all, no. Anyway, Jeff, Hefe, as we call him, your used condom will be in the mail this week. Thank you, Hefe. No, if your socials were anything like mine, you may have noticed that Harry Styles made music. Are your social? I'm very curious about this because my socials are very interesting, and I bet nothing like anyone else's in this podcast. That is,
I follow a bunch of movie people when I get
oh, that's
on.
cool.
People that talk and write about movies, and sports people, mostly college football.
Yeah,
and then I follow people that make me angry and depressed for no reason, and I don't know why I follow them.
Like who? Like not specifically, but like generally, who are you talking about? What are they writing about?
Oh,
are these famous people or people like we know?
I have no idea.
No, the people that depress him.
The people.
Why are you doing that to yourself?
I know. It's usually like climate change and like whatever horrible things happening in Washington or whatever.
Yeah.
Why am I doing it to myself?
Not to get all serious within like 5 minutes here, but do you feel? Is there like a need to bear witness to horrible things that you can't really control?
I think so. Now I am not a martyr here because I have moved I realized that I was using Twitter if I was bored or anxious just to distract myself. So I moved it off my home screen. So I'm a little bit more intentional about jumping on there.
No, you're never on Twitter. It's kind of sad.
Well, I don't tweet.
For me.
Your wife told a lovely story about the two of
Beautiful
you on
fucking
there this
story.
week. A beautiful thread. And she didn't even tag you because she knows he never checks it, I assume.
And I had to go in off of Twitter into our text thread and say, hey, your wife's telling tales out of school there, buddy.
I know, and then I had to deal with it. So that's why I stay off Twitter.
Okay. Well, it was nice. I thought it was real. Dr. Beth Ron Juan sharing how you guys eventually got engaged. It's cool. Two things I'll address here. One, I decided about 2 years ago to stop reading climate change things because I buy it and I know nobody's doing shit about it.
Sure.
Who can? And so I just quit. I'll glance at a headline. I might read a paragraph, but that's it. I'm done. I just can't. I can't do that shit anymore. Second thing, back to socials, especially on Instagram. I follow a lot of my former students, and I don't know. I just like to see where they're going in life. It's cool. Mm-hmm. And so I'll get all these flurry of Harry Styles is dropping a new album or something. I'll be like, oh, I didn't know that. So that's what I'm saying. I think my socials are probably a little different, especially my Instagram.
He's a phenomenon.
I had no idea.
That I think has passed me by. And he is a phenomenon. Like, it's a big deal when
Truly.
he does things. I thought he was good in, the last thing that I saw him in was probably Dunkirk. I thought he was good in that.
He was great.
He was in Eternals.
Was he in Eternals? I started
very
seeing
briefly.
Eternals.
Oh, okay. Well, then we won't say.
The last time that he crashed onto my socials was when he called the pigs. He played in Little Rock. And the Arkansas fan base got to him. You know how they do the whole, like, cheer thing? So that kind of tells you a lot about but they call them the pigs, right? That's what...
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think to initiate that cheer is to call the pigs.
Yes.
And
makes sense to me.
Somehow, you talk about how you curate a Twitter feed. Harry Styles, on there very little aside from, like, the pitchforks and the stereo gums and the general music stuff that I follow.
Yeah,
he was everywhere when he was leading a bunch of Arkansas fans. Yeah,
he seems like a cool cat, right?
Yeah.
His politics seem pretty, and his cultural awareness seems pretty cool.
I'd hang out with him. I mean, he's like 10 years younger than me, but maybe he doesn't want to hang out with me.
I'm not trying to bash him, is what I'm saying. I'm not of that generation, and I don't mind admitting that, but. I don't know that I've listened to a lot of his music, but he does seem like a cool guy. I bet he's going to get into acting a lot, though, with this Marvel stuff.
He seems like a guy that is very much a line in the sand for people me and Donovan's age, specifically, to where, like, I have zero interaction with him culturally, but if I was 5 years younger, I feel like I would have been just beaten over the head with him at a certain point in my life, especially 10 years younger.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
He has no bearing on my cultural life. But he seems like a nice guy.
He wore a dress, and it made people mad. And you know what?
Oh, yeah.
He looked nice in the dress.
Oh, he's a cute guy.
That's everything I know about him.
Another bit on socials. Stick to the socials. I noticed some teasing for the upcoming HBO Game of Thrones show, House of the Dragon. Did you guys get a chance to see that little teaser trailer?
Yeah.
Via socials or any other way?
Just on YouTube.
Thoughts?
You know, they hurt me so bad.
I was about to say the same thing. I can't help but be amazed by how little ripple effect that seemed to have on socials in general, on Reddit, on blah, blah, blah. And it's because of what Donovan said. They burned us so profoundly that, are we going to sign up to be heard again? Yeah, I'm going to watch it. But you just can't get excited in the same way.
I might stick around and see how the reviews go. But, man, I mean, just... Has anything else just dropped like a cultural stone out of our consciousness like Game of Thrones has?
I mean, it hit bottom quick in like a matter of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It just went from top, greatest thing, really entertaining thing to bullshit. I don't know. This one looked good though. It looked like they're going to pump that money into it like they started doing around season 2, 3, 4 of Game of Thrones, This one, it's probably going to be entertaining, right?
Yeah, it could be good. This is prequel stuff that I haven't read. George R. R. Martin has burned me too bad, so I haven't read it at all either. But they always seemed like they were doing their best job when they were adapting from something he'd already written. So I have high hopes for that on that front.
Well, this is a different crew.
Oh, yeah, no, I know. I know it's not Benioff, and is it Weiss?
And Weiss.
Yeah. But even so, just if past experience will lead to future experience, which is, there's no guarantee. They did seem to do better adapting than just kind of blazing new turf. And I realize it is a different production team.
Doesn't it have Matt Smith in it? He was featured in the teaser. Yeah. And y'all have a little bit more familiarity with him from Doctor Who, right?
He's always good in everything. He's great in Doctor Who. Anything else? He's been in just like little, like he's a. Did I ever force either of you to watch His House, which is a horror movie?
No, you talked it up on this podcast, and I never.
He plays a social worker, a generally disinterested social worker. It's just a bit role, but he does a fantastic job of just being like the guy who's too burnt out to care anymore. You know, so I have high hope. I have high hopes for him.
They could have cast me in that role. Donovan, you and I, let's keep this part brief, I guess, just because I think I want to come back to it in a week or two.
Okay.
I'm gonna get, and plus I haven't watched any of the new season of Atlanta. It's on my to watch list.
Oh, you haven't watched it yet?
No,
Okay.
I want you to say a thing or two in non-spoilery terms about the first few episodes of the FX show. By the way, if anybody doesn't know, it's Donald Glover. He has a lot of input from his brother on this show, I do believe, and it's called Atlanta. It's on FX. I think you can track it down on Hulu. I know you can track down the first couple of seasons on Hulu, but the current season that's airing. If anybody's listening and they are interested in Atlanta, and Adam, I think, is one of our folks here who haven't watched it, what makes this show so damn good? I mean, it is good.
It is really good. I think this is going to sound like the most qualitative over quantitative answer ever, but it's the vibe that it's got going on. And it's not afraid to be weird. And I think that weirdness, because it's not afraid to be weird, it's often not afraid to be unexpected. And when it's not afraid to be unexpected, it's not afraid to be surprising and kind of like maybe make you see something in a new way, or just, I don't know, just sometimes it's just weird.
The thing I love about it is sometimes it just makes you feel.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll take a note from Glover himself when he said, I think, to Rolling Stone, that being black isn't necessarily a narrative as much as it is a feeling or a vibe. I can't remember the exact wording.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't show you how it is to be black through a story. I've got to make you feel it.
And it's the way the new season picks up is very interesting, because the first episode, you know, it kind of premiered as 2 episodes, and you know, Earn and Paperboy and the rest of them are on. They're doing their European tour. This is not the one that they started at the end of season 2. They've clearly had a little bit more success, but the first episode has absolutely nothing to do with them at all. One bit. And
I'm sure it's great.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's an absolutely great episode. And to say more would spoil it, but it's about all kinds of great stuff. Performative, the way white people kind of do these performatively
Okay.
What am I trying to say? Like these good deeds, performative good deeds, performative goodness on white folks' parts.
Yeah, there's a phrase for it. My friend Caleb,
I can't think of it.
Caleb Johnson uses this phrase a lot with me. It's social performance. Yeah, referencing social media specifically. I'll say that Teddy Perkins may be the best single episode of television ever.
I've got good news for you too. It's still really funny.
All right.
It'll still make you laugh.
So Lakeith Stanfield is funny. That guy is just a riot.
Everything he does is somehow hilarious.
In this show especially, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been weird, you know, seeing him it's actually it was kind of odd for me seeing him back in the more comedic roles, since I've seen him take roles that aren't as comedic recently. He's really expanded his palette. It is kind of fun to come back to Atlanta, and everyone's been in some other stuff now.
Yeah, well, Brian Tyree Henry's getting, he was in Internals, and he's getting his more movie roles, bigger things.
Yep.
And he's cool. As far as seeing him on screen and stuff, I don't know him.
I'm
He's
glad
a nice
you
guy.
made that clear.
Well, I have had at least 2 people this very week. Not sure if I can count them as listeners, but they did ask me if we cover movies or why we don't cover movies, and we do actually on occasion. But with COVID and the theater, that became sort of a distant thing to try. And then, if you do go back and look at this podcast, we cover a lot of those films that were released in theaters and streaming simultaneously during the last year and a half. Anyway, all that to say, we have a bit of a movie review, don't we? Today, it's Adam. Adam watched Licorice Pizza from one of the best directors working. He's up there with Scorsese. And would you say that Paul Thomas Anderson is as good as the best?
He's one of the best out there right now, absolutely.
Alive, yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And it's real funny to hear Paul Thomas Anderson in interviews. He did the Smartless interview with Jason Bateman and Will Arnett, Sean.
Other guy.
Oh, and oh my God, he's the one who gets named the least. I'm so sorry. Like he needs my fucking help. But anyway, Paul Thomas Anderson was on Smartless with Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean
Penn.
Now that would be a fucking cool podcast. I think Sean Penn's been on that podcast, but it's so funny to hear how Paul Thomas Anderson is just kind of like this down-to-earth kind of dad. And you don't hear any of these ornate or abstract thoughts happening when he answers questions. He's just like us, kind of. Mm-hmm. But then you watch these movies, and he has such a grasp on the abstract. And going back to Atlanta, he kind of knows how to give you a vibe rather than necessarily instruct you on this is the narrative.
I'm glad you said that about a vibe, because that would be exactly my review too. Of his movies, right? Like every one of them is locked into a specific vibe instead of.
And I'm thinking The Master especially.
Yeah,
remember that one? God, that was a great one. Adam, Licorice Pizza, let it rip, man.
Am I the only one that's seen it?
Mm-hmm.
Of the 3?
Mm-hmm. I imagine it's not like a huge spoiler kind of movie, though.
No, and it's funny that you talked about vibe and how he's able to maybe relate some complex ideas without holding your hand the entire time, or it's the slow unfurl of the story that does it for you. When this one ended, me and Natalie looked at each other, and we maybe had some small problems here and there, but generally, I thought it was great from the start. I think the problem is the controversy that is probably, you don't have to see the movie to know the age difference in the 2 protagonists and their will they, won't they romantic relationship. I kind of feel like that's how you answer that question, was that a needed plot device or not, kind of colors how you see the film, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's ultimately about being young. Like, I went and read just some Google user reviews to see how people were feeling about this, and almost everybody said this captures perfectly that feeling of the world is stretching out before you, you're young, you have infinite possibilities, blah, blah, blah. I think setting it in a fairly nostalgic time, the 70s in Los Angeles, lent a lot of that feeling too.
I think that in part pushed me away from the movie pushed me away from this movie being a must-see, because I don't know that I could relate a lot to late 70s Los Angeles. If he would have put it in late 70s Kansas or Missouri or Alabama, I would have been like, oh yeah, fuck, I grew up there. I did that. But I don't know, something about Los Angeles.
I mean, ultimately it feels like youth in Technicolor, like some of the... Okay. He really uses it more so that, say, like the harebrained schemes that they come up with can happen faster because they are in a bigger city. It still retains a suburban feel, more than if it was, say, set in Manhattan or something like that. Most of the characters still live in environments that would be familiar to us. They're just surrounded by the resources of Los Angeles, and they cross paths with movie stars, and they, the guy character is Gary, is a child actor who has probably aged out of most of his roles. So that's an interesting component, but it doesn't hang up there. There would be a whole movie just about that, about a child actor who won't grow up but is not getting work anymore. Instead, he's just constantly hustling and trying to make a buck. So I don't know. It does a lot without overdoing it, if that makes sense. It sprawls, but it never feels disjointed. You never reach for your phone. That's our common test here on this podcast. That
is our test.
Did they enter some side plot that I don't care about enough that let's see what's happening on Twitter? That didn't really come up.
We could have named this podcast "Did I Reach for My Phone?"
Yeah, totally. That's such a valid measure.
It is. It's a great caveat.
But I thought it was really good. I think that my only, again, what I said about problems are basically just the age gap in both the characters and Alana Haim and Cooper Hoffman, who were both fantastic, by the way. Cooper Hoffman plays a character that's supposed to be just have, charisma oozing out his pores, and he pulls it off, despite being a pretty goofy-looking, believably goofy-looking 15-year-old. I think Hoffman's actually 18 or 19. And then Alana Haim, I had no idea what she was going to be like acting, and her and, her sisters her whole family has a cameo in the film, and they're all great.
That leads me to two questions. They might be spoiler, but not much. One, do they ever eat licorice pizza?
I never saw a licorice pizza. God
damn it. That's false advertising.
I'm not even sure I saw a pizza. Man, that's disappointing now that I think about it.
Oh. Wow. Okay. Number two, you've had some hang-ups about Haim.
Haim?
Haven't you?
What?
I remember when they first came out, you and I, sometimes you remember friends' opinions from years ago, and I remember you saying that you just did not like that band, and this is probably 10 years ago. And why I remember it, don't ask.
I definitely don't get that band. I mean, I do. When I remember, I'm thinking specifically of a Grammys performance, maybe from last year, or some award show performance where they were kind of swapping instruments the whole time and swapping who was taking the lead vocal, and there was some cool camera work. And I remember thinking, okay, I get this. This is like, I understand how they were in indie world and now have kind of graduated to like being Taylor Swift's friends. Like not on her level, but in the pop consciousness much more than most indie rock bands would be.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard a recording of one of their songs that really grabbed me, but who gives a shit? I'm a 30-whatever-year-old white dude. I don't think they're that interested in appealing to me. That's fine.
I think that it's off their last album. It's called The Steps. I think that song kind of slaps. Maybe give it a spin. See what you think.
They're very talented. It's not even that I think they're doing things that are vapid or whatever. Like, I mean, they're writing like really great music. There are a lot of bands that I think this is good, but it's not necessarily grabbing me,
Right.
I got you. All right, well, with that, let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk some Disney Plus Moon Knight. Yeah, we're on a break here, just a little bit, mid-show break. We'd like to tell you what's going on elsewhere beyond this podcast, but still under the Alabama Take umbrella. It's growing. It's getting a little bigger, a little better, in our opinion. We got our regular head writer, Patrick Akers, covering wrestling of late, and he also has some other cultural topics that are a lot of fun. We've got our book reviewer, Laura, who's going to be making her return soon. Quite whimsical takes on literature and beyond. What else we got coming? Oh, it's getting closer. This Song Sucks coming back for its third season. You're going to be thrilled with that if you like really negative comedy.
Did they let Josh plug in his microphone this year?
They did. I was a guest on a recent one, and
I was too. I was just hoping it hadn't recorded.
And here's a little bit of a secret. I kind of teased last podcast. We got a podcast or two in the works, so we hope we can reveal those sooner than later. Let's get back into our show and talk about Moon Knight. Yeah, so Disney Plus, they released Moon Knight this week. They're going to do the standard Disney Plus thing, 1 episode per week. That's cool with me. I like that. And this one going in had me a little excited, primarily because of Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke. Particularly with Oscar, well, both of these guys tend to choose shows and movies fairly carefully, so that had me thinking this is going to be a higher level show than maybe Falcon and Winter Soldier, with the exception of maybe the other Marvel/Sony work he did with X-Men Apocalypse, where you didn't even know he was in the movie because of the makeup. Did either of you have expectations for Moon Knight coming in, other than maybe I'm going to watch it probably?
Mostly, same thing you said, Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke. That sounds like the Marvel stuff has been generally fun, so put 2 great actors in there. Why not give it a spin? But I have no, connection to the Moon Knight character. I don't know.
Oh, no, me either.
Never read the comic. I sort of know that he's related to, ancient Egyptian stuff. That's it. So my expectations were pretty wide open.
Same. I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't even, again, coming out of my travels for the last few weeks, I told Natalie what the rundown of what we were going to watch, or for the pod this week was, and I had no idea that it was a Marvel show, so I had to be informed.
But Natalie, we often have Natalie on as a guest here because she loves the Marvel stuff and she helps chime in on those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Was she pumped about it?
I think so. I mean, it was on her to watch list.
Sure.
I think this is such a. I mean, if you've left fielded Donovan on one of these things, then it is truly, outside the wheelhouse of most Marvel fans. If he hasn't engaged with the comic or haven't much background, then I think most people, Natalie included, were coming in pretty fresh.
Is that a better way? Do you guys think? Just to come in I don't know who this character is. I know he's part of Marvel. I know he's been in a Spider-Man comic or 3. Is that good?
It can be kind of fun for them to hit the ground running on how the universe works. They're going to have to, obviously, episode 1 we can get into, they're having to explain the rules, basically. It's an exploration of the rules. So, but it is fun to see origin story. It is fun to see that play out.
Yeah, I went in blind, and I felt like, based on the way they did the first episode, that was the right choice. Just because I kept being, not surprised maybe, but just kind of oh, so that's what they're doing here.
Yeah. Yeah, I had read something from Oscar Isaac, who he had talked about his being a bit startled on how the show is a little bit more violent than other Marvel shows. I think the first episode doesn't quite do that yet, so it must be coming.
Well, I don't know. There was a lot more blood.
Yeah, do you think so? Yeah, I guess so, right?
Putting broken glass in your shoes and walking around, that's not violent.
I mean, old substitute Captain America did beat somebody bloody with a shield.
Yeah, but we didn't see it too much.
That's true. Let's talk about episode 1. Why not start with a Bob Dylan song and a guy putting crushed glass in his sandals? Why not?
What a great way to start.
An obscure Dylan song from his religious days.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah?
Fits perfectly.
You guys a fan of Every Grain of Sand? That was the song.
Yeah, not a Muscle Shoals song. I was disappointed.
No. But I'll tell you what, in those 3 quote-unquote religious albums he put out from 79 to 82 have his best harmonica playing. You could hear it in that intro a little.
I will go on record saying I am a fan of this song, and I thought they used it well.
Kind of. Yeah, quite the juxtaposition. I guess a little, because you got this zealot in Ethan Hawke doing this glass crush. He takes a shot of something, vodka maybe, water maybe, and he crushes the glass with his little hammer that helps him determine if you are worthy, if you're a good person or a bad person. And we see it used about mid-episode. So
I just like the religious theme of it, because it kind of, I felt like it tied in well with Ethan Hawke clearly being some sort of unhinged kind of religious zealot type guy.
Isn't there a lot of overlap between certain parts of Egyptian religion and Christianity? Or isn't there some borrowing going on there?
You mean in the sense that like Osiris dies and is resurrected, that kind of thing?
That's it.
Yeah.
It happens in the spring, kind of like that mirrors Easter. And
Yeah.
am I right or am I wrong?
It happens when, I don't know when it happens, but I know it happens with, it has something to do with the Nile coming back, right? And
It
flooding.
flows backwards, right?
What do you mean? It does flow backwards or unusual.
Yeah, there's an unusual. Is that what you're talking about, Donovan? When it floods
No, I'm
like
talking
that?
about with the Nile flooding, and that's what brings the new life to the land, right? Because it's when it floods, it brings the nutrients, and it gets all the that's when you can plant and all that kind of stuff.
Theologians, all of us.
Yes.
Clearly.
But that is part of Moon Knight because they are trying to introduce the mythology of Moon Knight, and wrapped up in that is the mythology of Egyptian gods, and they're trying to like squeeze that in here and there and have Stephen, the character of Stephen, explain some of that, right? Isn't that not what's happening?
Yeah, absolutely.
I initially a nice episode. I thought it had some really cool moments, and I thought some of the best moments were sneaking in a little foreshadowing, little nods. He says in that thick British accent that he's not dead. There's that little moment, and I thought, oh, well, is he dead? Will we see that later? And then, he talks to this statue guy in the park, one of those people who are posing like a statue, and he says he'll see him on the flip side, and we get this beautiful little cut to a puddle image which displays their mirror image, and then that continues the whole mirror. I'm looking in a mirror. Is that really me?
That was a lovely shot.
That was a great,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm into like perfect little shots. I guess Twitter's trained me because of those accounts that show you just one picture from a movie or show.
You know that the quote unquote action parts of this were very cool too.
I thought they were
because
great.
They featured very little action, but just the way they did it was pretty unique. Where obviously he's coming back to himself right after he's done something horrific to people who are trying to. What are they trying to do? They're trying to get the MacGuffin from him. They're trying to get the scarab from him.
Oh yeah.
And it was so. It was really well done.
And when it did have action on screen, it had a sense of fast, frenetic movement without losing you.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that so much. That was one big flaw in Black Panther at the end of it. You get really lost. Who's fighting whom? Who's throwing this punch? Why are they in all black in a dark tunnel kind of thing?
This episode was really well directed. Just
Yes.
overall.
And an Egyptian director. I think he directs the first 4 of the 6.
I saw that.
Forget his name. But I had never heard of him.
He clearly knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Oscar Isaac, I mentioned earlier, he's just an excellent actor, and you talked about when he wakes up in some of those scenes that his expressions are just stretched.
Perfect.
Yeah. The dumb accent's good.
He looks like he had, he just seems, he's so good. He's such a good actor, right? And he seems so clueless as Steven.
With a V.
With a V. Kind of goofy, but just like a clueless guy. And then that getting mixed into the more actiony parts where he is coming back to himself, and it's just like his eyes are wide and he's all shooken up and he has no idea what he's doing. He plays it really well. Then it was kind of fun to get to see Mark right at the end too in the mirror, to get to see him stretching his acting chops even a little bit more.
Yeah. And I love the little moment of thrill, kind of a horror genre staple where the mirror does something different than what he's doing.
Yeah.
I love that shit, man.
That was great. When that started up, it was, you kept waiting on the moment. You know that something like that's going to happen, and the payoff did not disappoint or fall into the cliche. I thought that was one of the stronger moments in the first episode.
I'd agree.
I'm not sure how thrilled I am with Ethan Hawke having to spell out his bad guy thesis in episode 1. But, we do need motivation, but that felt a little, overdone?
Maybe we'll see if there's any more to it.
It's got to be. There's got to be. And I also worry that Are they going to do the second and third and fourth antagonist here? In like, sometimes Marvel will do that a lot. This antagonist isn't good enough. We got to have someone else pulling the strings.
Turns out he's a low-level boss.
Yeah, kind of that thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say it is kind of set up to have him be the low-level boss just because of the Egyptian mythology part of it.
Yeah, he's kind of serving a god.
Yeah,
goddess.
Exactly. So if the gods or goddesses come into the picture, then I'm kind of wondering if it's going to go in that direction.
I really have hopes that they will thoroughly get into this idea of punishment before the crime, kind of like a Minority Report. Remember that movie?
Yeah,
I could use a lot more philosophy on that if they wanted to. It's so hard, I think, sometimes for these Marvel movies to have these in-depth thematic ideas and still be fun. I don't think they've found the right balance yet. Do you guys think they've ever done it, like, and just nailed it? Boom. I think WandaVision came really close.
I don't think they've ever quite. Yeah, they've never quite nailed it, because you can see, like, the flip side of that is, I say, Falcon and Winter Soldier is when it kind of went off the rails. And yeah, WandaVision came closest, but they did still kind of have to spell it out for you.
Yes, that I think that's part of it. Then when they have to spell it out, just let me figure some of this out on my own, which is why I was against Ethan Hawke saying some of that stuff.
The scene where the woman goes to be judged of her own volition, and I guess I talked about revealing the rules of a story, like establishing that. I thought that was one of the, I don't know, I've been sitting here while y'all talk trying to think, were there more powerful Marvel philosophical moments? That's an interesting scene to see her, the implications of voluntarily going forward and saying, go ahead and judge me, and being punished for something that you haven't done yet. That makes you ask, like, what does the time matter between now and the evil deed? And I know it opens a box of questions that maybe, most Marvel things are, is violence justified, is blah, blah, pretty like low level philosophical thoughts, I guess. And that was a more intriguing setup.
And it would have been great to let it stand alone and and edit out the Ethan Hawke soliloquy, sort of.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
monologue.
I agree. Yeah, we'll see if it can, if it's interested in kind of letting that evolve organically, or if they're gonna bang us over the head with it, or if they're just gonna kind of forget about it. Which sometimes I think they've done, right? Like, they'll introduce a really interesting idea, and then kind of it gets swallowed up in the
A chase scene
sequences or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
When are we going to get like a Marvel show or movie where it's basically Moonlight or The Power of the Dog, but action? I want them to strike that balance so badly, because I do find these things entertaining. I just want more to talk about.
I mean, I guess it's hard. If it was easy to do, someone would have done it by now, right? It's a hard balance to strike.
I mean, if Chloe Zhao can't do it, then...
Yeah, I was gonna say the Eternals tried, but it kind of turned into freshman philosophy class at best, right?
Yeah.
What do you think was the central theme to that one? Family? Was it?
Yeah, or the question all along for the Eternals was, do we step in? What's the point of power if you don't do anything? If you don't help?
Yeah. All right. Well, we got Mark/Steven/Moon Knight with the memory of a goldfish. That was okay. This one had, I think, maybe one of the best first episodes for a Marvel show.
I think I'd agree with that.
One of them,
I wasn't as hot on it, I don't think, as you guys.
Oh, wow.
Why is
really?
that?
Earlier we talked about Licorice Pizza and how I found it it earned all its side stories and its pace and blah, blah, blah. This one to me felt more like a workout. Like I was having to do some work that the show wasn't doing in how disjointed it was, which I know is the point, that this is a fractured body, I guess, more than mind, fractured personality, whatever but it was still kind of, it felt like a chore to watch at times. There were some great
Interesting.
sequences, but maybe this is something that's resolved. Again, talking about rules being established. Once I'm used to the pace, once it's less hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, it won't be as tough to watch, I guess.
That's interesting because I found myself, I think, more intrigued by maybe some of the stuff that was a turnoff to you. Like, and obviously, it's a setting, like you said, it's a setting up the rules, it's a setting up the world episode. But I think that I think they did a pretty good job of making some of the things that they would introduce early on, making them start to click more together at the end.
Yeah, I was enthralled. I think it was. I think a lot of it had to do with Oscar Isaac, though.
He's very good.
I can watch
Huge
him.
help.
He's just,
Yeah.
It's so weird to see him go from the last thing I saw him in was scenes from Portrait of a Marriage or Scenes from Marriage.
Scenes from Marriage.
Scenes
yeah.
from Marriage, yeah. And it's so bizarre to see him go from the kind of acting he was doing in that to whatever he's doing. There's just something more kind of almost broader about what he's doing in this Marvel film than Scenes was more specific. And I don't know, it just kind of reinforces what a good actor he is.
I don't disagree with that. I am happy, though. I do like that Disney Plus gives us this little 45-minute popcorn every week.
Yeah.
You know, it's this little 45-minute snack once a week, because if they're fairly decent, and most of them are, I can just lose myself into being entertained with punch and lasers and whatever, punching and fighting superhero shit for 45 minutes. I do hope, my fingers are crossed, that one day they're going to give me something that's just, on the level of Citizen Kane with a cape, but it's not going to happen. All right, let's wrap it up this week, and we hope you enjoyed it. I bet you anything next week we're going to do a Severance wrap-up, because that show will have reached its finale for its first season. It's got a second season coming sometime. We here at Taking It Down, we're out every Tuesday morning, other than a few hiccups or scheduled breaks. Hit us up online. We'll give you a heads up on what we're going to be talking about in the podcast to come a few days out. Give us a review. Leave us some stars in your podcast app, and we will talk to you all later.